everyone. Welcome to the Femme Tell All podcast. My name is Madison Bellissimo.
And I'm Ruth Devereaux.
And we're so happy you're here.
We're happy you're here.
Let's see how fast I can say it next time. We're so happy you're here.
We're so happy. Wait, I can't do it. You can do it way faster. Do it again.
We're so happy you're here.
We're so happy. I can't do it.
We just lost like 10 listeners right there. So sorry, guys. We are jacked up on some poppy. Soda girls not drinking soda. Health girls drinking soda. It's crazy out here. But we are so excited to talk today about a subject that we want to talk about more, but we've kind of shied away from because you guys love dating content so much.
We love talking about dating too.
Truly.
But if we're talking about just overall life and the things that we talk about on the day-to-day with each other and the things we care about, not only for ourselves, but even the people around us to have the life that they want and that they deserve is financial freedom. Freedom.
But no, truly. Well, I can't say.
I think it was the tongue twister at the top.
Financial freedom, guys. That's what we're doing. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And you're, in my opinion, the financial baddie. Like, you are plugged into the matrix. You understand finance very well.
I try. I definitely feel like I could still learn more, and it's evolving so quickly in the things that you can invest in, the ways you can invest, and where your money's going to work the best for you. But also financial freedom looks different to everybody, right? Some people feel like they need a ton of money to feel comfortable, and some people feel like as long as my basic needs are met, then I'm good. It really depends on person to person, but knowing what that means to you is really important. So then you have a goal that you're driving towards.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what does financial freedom look like to you?
Oof. Okay. Well, let's get into it.
Yeah.
Because I was like, do I avoid the specifics? But I think we need to kind of start there.
Totally.
I would love to own properties.
Great.
Multiple
That's
properties.
A good one, yeah.
We start there, right?
Yes.
Multiple, so I can get rental revenue from at least one of them. That would be wonderful. Financial freedom to me means that I can travel at my leisure. You know, that's something that is really important to me. Yeah. I'm eventually going to have like half of my heart in Spain at some point once my nephew and my brother and my sister-in-law move back.
To leave.
Yeah, it will be quite devastating.
Yeah.
So I'm going to want to feel like I can visit them in Spain freely as much as I can with my schedule.
Yeah.
Financial freedom to me also means like going to restaurants, going to things like, I know that's such a smaller thing, but like,
no, it's not
going whenever you want, trying new places, like the top Michelin star vibes, whenever you want, and not feeling like, oh, I need to,
or I'm worried.
I think it's funny, I have the money to do it like now, but it just feels like it's excessive.
Yeah.
And I feel like getting to a point where I don't have like a guilt over it. Like I don't feel like it's really excessive. Like it's excessive in theory as far as like, do I need to be eating at Michelin star restaurants all the time? No. Would I like to? Yeah. Every once in a while. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Would I like to go to the Maldives? Yes.
Yes. We will one day.
We will. It's on our vision board.
Yes.
So those kinds of things. And honestly, like the more I've talked to you and Adam about it, just like aggressively investing too. And even not like aggressive, but like just intentionally investing so that I don't feel like, oh, I need to have this much money in the bank. I have to have this because everything is always increasing or, appreciating.
And that's what the benefit for you is, starting younger. And that's such a huge, like, underplayed benefit. Like, you starting at your age, you're a foot ahead of, like, most people in your class. And, like, it just amplifies so much. And, like, I've said to you before, and I think I've said it on the show before, too, like, I wouldn't have had the capacity to chase my dreams if I hadn't invested when I was younger. Because I wouldn't have felt safe in doing so. I wouldn't have been able to pay my bills. I wouldn't have been able to like survive. But knowing I had that comfort of like, if I have to,
I have a fallback.
I can touch this.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think when I read financial books, when I'm on the financial side of TikTok, and it's like the recommendation of always having like a safety fund or a security fund of like 3 times the amount of rent at least in one savings account. And then you have a separate like account for
And that should be a high yield savings.
Yes, of course, high yield. Thank you for referencing for others. But yeah, like I think, and then like a travel account, an emergency fund, like all different accounts where you have allocated funds where you don't even need to dip into this bigger one for like, oh God, my car stopped working, or like, oh, like.
And see, for me, like that's really hard because like if I think of having to maintain, because I know where all my money is, and like if I'm thinking like, oh, I have like 6 different savings accounts set up, like that to me doesn't feel comfortable. I think that works as a tool for some, and if it does, great. Like I love that idea. Mm-hmm.
But it's not a one size fits all.
Well, even think about getting paid and then being like, okay, now I have to divvy all of this up into 6 different accounts. Like that seems like arduous, right? Like it seems like it makes saving more of a task.
Yeah, it's a chore.
Yeah, and I think it's going to make you less likely to do it.
Yeah, I do think I think you're right. Like I think it really just depends on your personality type. Yeah. Because I think some people that might have Virgo placements. No, I'm kidding. But someone who's more
saving according to your sign.
Literally, astrologically, how should you save your money? No, but I think like and
oh my God, we should actually do an episode.
That would be so fun. I would love to do that. Yeah. But like all jokes aside, someone who's like extremely anal retentive, someone that is extremely organized, maybe that's something that can work for them. They like their 10 minutes a day where they go like, this goes to this account, this goes to that account. And I think the point that you're making so beautifully is like, do what works for you and what like motivates you to continue saving. Like that's the point.
I think also automation. Like if you're paying bills on automatic, like if you set up an amount to go into an investment or a savings account automatically every time you get paid, month. And you're not even seeing
that money.
You're not seeing it. Yeah. You're not having to take any additional steps to do it.
Yeah.
Like that is going to guarantee success. Mm-hmm. Like I have most of my investment accounts are automatically debited and going into certain investments every month.
Yeah.
And so I'm not thinking about it at all, but I'm continuing to grow my investments because I've set this up and now I'm so accustomed to it coming out of my account. I'm not even thinking about it.
Yeah. I think there is something to be said about, especially with money, is out of sight, out of mind, which is so funny. It sounds counterintuitive, but I think, like when I know, like with my automated payments, I think about like how I pay my bills, like my utilities and things like that. I have a cap that it's like, you have to notify me if it's over this amount, right?
Absolutely.
But besides that, I'm like, if it's under 150, don't even fucking tell me. Exactly. Like that shit is in my account. Take it out.
It's good to go.
Yeah, I'm like, we're good. Like, so that is one thing that's like really helped me because I used to be so like diligently on because I wanted to, once I was living alone and doing all that. But I'm like, it's so much easier to have that for me. And then again, I'm not thinking like, wow, some people might be freaking out at home, like, itching their necks, like, you don't know how much you pay for your electricity bill every month? No. Like, I know in a range because that's what it always is. So that's why I've set, like, give me an alarm if it's out of the ordinary. Yeah. But I think, like, that's another thing with financial freedom is sometimes you just don't want to be making all these trivial decisions. You don't want to make, like, all these chores for yourself where it's like, oh, that's where like a meal delivery service might be on someone's financial freedom. Yeah. Like, or like a private chef. Like, you think that sounds like only billionaires have that, but sometimes people that are not billionaires have that because it's way more bang for your buck as far as like, you don't have the time to go to the grocery store and cook yourself meals. Yeah. So you end up going out all the time and then you don't like the food that you're eating because you feel like you're eating like, so if you hired a private chef once a week to come in and prepare you meals, it might end up being cheaper.
Yeah. Well, and like you have to value your time at a certain point too. Mm-hmm. When you reach like, I understand for people that are starting off and really just don't have anything. Like at that point, you like, yes, you're doing every role in your life because like your time isn't, I don't want to say it isn't as worth as much, but you just can't account for the spending of that. Yeah. But when you get to a certain point where you're so busy and like your time would be better spent doing something else, you have to start farming out different like
allocating
tasks.
It to different different to people that are great at that job too. Because I think a lot of the time we try to do everything and that can be really wonderful if you are capable and able, but sometimes it ends up costing you more. Like I think about all the time, like my dad has some pride sometimes when it comes to like fixing things in the house. Yeah. This man can afford like 100% any repairman to come and do things, but he's like, I can do it. And there's been multiple times, not all the time. He's very, very good at what he does. And he really does know his way around a house as far as like he can fix anything.
Yeah.
However, there been times where my dad was like, I'm going to do this plumbing thing, not being a plumber, and then made a problem, an extra problem.
Absolutely.
Because yes. And I'm like, did you really save money and time and effort?
See, with housing, plumbing, and electricity, I never touch.
Outsource.
Anything else, like I'm sure I could try that. I could build that. I could fix that.
Yeah.
But plumbing and electricity, no.
Not for me.
No.
Mm-mm. Yeah. So I agree with that. So it's like you have to kind of decide what your expertise are, what's worth your time, what's worth your effort.
Yeah.
And like the rest you pay for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think then it's like so then we take what you're farming out, what your savings, and then I think that's why it comes back to time, even with savings, because like if you are putting too many roadblocks in your way of achieving anything, you're less likely to do it, because even if you feel great about it today, there's going to come a time where you're like, either you forgot or you got really busy or life just got in the way. Like automate as much as you can.
Yeah.
Because then like the surprise at the end of that road is like, you don't know, you look into an account that you haven't even thought of.
Oh.
And you're building consistently.
Yeah. And it's appreciating.
Yeah.
And it's like, you did it. You don't realize, you don't realize that a year ago that you like put it in and you're like, oh shit, in this year, look at how much is already. Yeah. I think that's a wonderful idea. And also when you know that like, I think assessing that before you start investing too, like realistically, how much can I not put in my account every month that like if I don't see it and it goes nowhere, like if that's $100, if that's $5, like you guys have always said that to me.
It's like,
it's like just knowing what you can afford and then going like, okay, I'm never going to like see that 200 for right now.
I remember when I first started saving, and I think that I've talked about it, that's on past episodes too, but like after a while, it felt so good when I got paid and transferred this predetermined amount into my savings account. And it was like a large chunk of what we were bringing in at the time. But after a while of like, I was looking forward to payday to transfer into our savings account.
Yeah.
And it felt so good seeing that grow, because I also knew that money had a purpose that we were growing towards. And I think that's an important thing too. I think so many times in life, if you don't have a purpose that's driving you in life and also in your investing, that's why having that picture of what financial freedom looks like to you is so important, or else it's just like this endless roadmap, right?
It's aimless.
Yeah. And like if you also, and we talk about this, me and Adam have talked about this as well, like if you get too far into your path, say like, and this might be true for some people listening, say you're in your 40s and you haven't started investing yet, it looks like a huge mountain to climb. You're starting at the bottom and you're like, I know I need to like make up for lost time, and there's so much I need to do that it feels like overcoming. And there is a way to still do it at that age. It's a little bit harder, and it might take a little bit longer, and you're going to have to cut back even more to get yourself to where you need to be. But again, that's why, the benefit is starting early.
Starting as early as you can.
Yeah.
Because you're right. Like, you almost have to make more consolations or more. You have to be almost more aggressive. Yes. If you do it a little later.
Yeah.
It's not impossible. Like, don't feel like,
it's not. Please don't. Yeah. Yes. And I don't. That's why I want to choose my words carefully, because I know people that are in that position, and it does feel like, oh my gosh, I'm starting now.
Scary. 100%.
Yeah. But it can also be exciting even at that age, because you're hopefully making more money than you were when you were younger.
Yeah.
You have more of an opportunity to you're probably spending on things that you really don't need. You have a lot of places you can cut back on, and you have that chance to grow. It's just gonna take more of your work. But it's still there. But it's still possible.
And then you'll be able to reap the benefits in your 60s, 70s, when you're retired.
Well, like the way that health is kind of evolving too, like our lives are probably going to be a lot longer than the generations before us. So even starting later than what was previously determined to be the age to start at, like you still have a long life ahead of you. You need to plan for it.
Absolutely.
And I think when we're at that age where we can still be mobile and work and think like, oh, I'll just keep working, I'll keep bringing in money, like you will hit a point in your life where you can't or you don't want to. And hopefully it's the don't want to, and you have the means to be able to enjoy life at that time. But I would hate for anybody to get to the point where they just couldn't physically work anymore, and you're in a position where you have nothing and you regret every decision you ever made that took you to that point. I don't want anybody there.
Yeah.
So please like heed these words and just like save a little bit because it can go much further for you in the future.
Yeah, and to your point, like we don't know when our health could decline.
Yeah.
And that could happen at any age.
At any
you know,
age,
and so you might be like taking that for granted, saying like, well, I'll be able to work for the next 20, 30 years of my life, like aggressively. So whatever, I'll make the money, I'll figure it out. But it's like, if you start investing now and you start doing, you know, in whatever way you deem is safe and accessible for you, then if you do, God forbid, something happens to your health, a loved one's health, that happens all the time too.
Yeah.
You can take time off, or you can, you know, pivot because you already have this cushion that's giving you this safety, you know, like the safety blanket.
And I also don't even want to say like investing's only in the traditional ways of like stocks or crypto and crypto's not even traditional, but like, or in the ways that people might assume like, oh, this is investing or a 401k or an IRA. Like, it's not just that. Like, it could be starting your own business. Like that could end up being the investment that pays off for you. Yeah. Like, but whatever it is, like, put your time and your efforts into something that will eventually lead to you being okay in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, now we have to catch up on what your financial freedom would be.
Yeah. For me, financial freedom is time. Like, I think essentially what you said too, it is time. Like, if you can have your life to do in the way that you want to do and you have the money to do it, like, that's freedom. That's like, if you don't have anybody.
That's the definition of freedom. Yeah.
That's freedom. That's what I think all of us are striving towards. Like, I don't want to ever feel forced into a situation because I have to do it for money. I don't want to ever wake up and hate my day. And I definitely felt that way when I worked in like a corporate structure. Like every morning I was like, ugh, when's Friday? And I hate that.
Yeah.
But I think the definition of financial freedom is being like, I make enough to support the lifestyle that I currently have, and I'm not hating my life every day.
Yeah, it's flexibility. Yeah. It's giving you the opportunity to do what you want on your like quote unquote off time or even during your work time. Like that's the like real life, right? Like you're working like this. We talk about this podcast all the time being like a means to financial freedom, like potentially in the future where we're doing something we absolutely love and we're getting paid for it, you know, and it's going into the whole, you know, it's going into the, like the little nest we're building for ourselves. Yeah.
I would say like, I would consider myself quote unquote financially free with an asterisk now. Like I still feel like I need to save more and I still need to build more, but I don't feel like I ever feel beholden to anything. I don't hate my life. Like I feel very satisfied with my life.
Yeah.
But I also feel like I wish I had more because I wish I could put more into this. I wish I could take care of my friends and my family more. Yeah, there's dreams of that are like the higher level of financial freedom, but I'm at like the lower level of financial freedom.
I think you have achieved a lot and you're still so young.
So kind of you to lie.
No, I know. I'm not lying. I'm saying
I mean, like on the spectrum of life and like everything.
Yes, and when I talk to other people about where they're at financially, I feel like you do have a lot of freedom in that way. Of like you were really aggressive with your investments early on. Yeah, and you helped yourself. You set yourself up for success. So maybe someone else's definition of financial freedom is you never have to work.
Yeah.
But you like working.
I love working.
Yeah. So it's like like it's not like you're at the point where you never have to work, but you are at a point where you work on things you want to work on and you're doing the kind of work you want to work specifically. Like that's probably more, I would say even that's the thing to highlight is you're doing the kind of work you want to work.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's the purpose-driven stuff, right? Yeah. So as we're talking about like that in finances, I think it's just, again, coming back to like having a life of purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. Purpose is so important.
It's massive, yeah.
And if you don't have a purpose, then you can end up being aimless. You can end up being someone that is lacking direction so deeply that you can't even fathom having a type of financial freedom because you're like, what am I going to spend it on? I think that's why we wanted to pose this question anyway, because this like if you are able to start thinking like, what does that life mean to you? Like you having extra time, is that to visit your mom? Is that to like go on trips with Neil? Is that for you to like take Alyssa somewhere? You know, like those are the things that you have to think of. And you can start crunching those numbers, because if you really start, say you take a day to be like, okay, how much would a trip to the Maldives cost? And like, you know, all this stuff. And you start looking at it, it usually is cheaper than you think it's going to be, as far as like when you think of like, if I have a life where I can do anything I please, you're like, oh, these are kind of cheaper than I was thinking.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also the thing that I've realized throughout life, and I'm sure, and I won't speak for you, but I feel like you probably have too, like even the things that seem like they're going to be hard aren't as hard as you think they are when you do them.
Yeah.
I think it's just taking that first step.
Leap. Yeah.
Yeah. And then that becomes like, oh, well, that was easy. Like, and then the next one's, oh, that wasn't that bad.
Yeah,
like,
I did that.
I think so many people aren't taking steps forward in so many things, including saving, that it feels like it's going to be really hard. It feels like you're going to lose something. And you really don't. Like in the end, you gain so much more.
Yeah.
And like that's, I think, having that clear vision when you have the purpose, or you have like a dream that you're trying to achieve, whether like you said, taking care of family or being able to visit family, that if you have that, like in the steps that you take to get there lead to that, like you get to the end and you're like, oh, I didn't even realize I was headed this way, and I got here. Yeah,
absolutely. I think because if you don't have that clear vision, you don't understand like what you want to get out of it at the same time. So it's like, I lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry.
Oh, sorry.
No. I'm glad that you said that, because I think if you are specific with your actions and you know how you're going to use that time and use that money, then it's so much easier when you take that first step. Then, and if say you fail, God forbid, you pivot.
Yeah.
So it's like when you're not doing active choices, whether it's like a right or wrong, because I think that's what a lot of people get paralyzed from. I know I do too. It's like I've talked to you and Adam about it, where I'm like, I don't know what's right to invest in right now. And you guys are like, anything, you know? And it's true. It's like when you numb yourself, or you're so worried about taking that first step or that first like bold leap, you're cutting yourself off to every possibility, you know, yes, failure is one of the possibilities, but success is too. Yeah. So if you are aimless, or you're petrified, so you don't take any decision, you don't make any forward movement, that is worse. That being stagnant is worse than failing, honestly. Absolutely. Because even if you fail at an investment, which I don't really know like how it would just be
you lose all your
money.
Lose
your money, right? But like,
but if you're investing wisely and you're actually like looking into stuff, like, and I think that if you make the right choices, you're never going to be in that position. I think it's the people that want the big wins and they go for like very high risk.
Yeah.
And they might win really big. And like, again, it's their choice in how they want to do it. But like
they also could,
they could lose big.
Yes. So it's like, that is obviously a failure. We're not promoting like, we don't want you to lose your money. We don't want anyone to lose their money. However, I think like even if you lost money, say on something, you can be like, oh, I don't like those kinds of stocks, or I don't like this. And then you can pivot and you can like learn from there. And that's better than not doing anything at all, I think, in my opinion. But maybe I'm safely on my side of
That's the kind of investor I am too, though. Like I'm very like, I know how hard it is to make money and I respect money in that way. Like I've worked really hard to get to like the savings that I have that I'm like, I don't want to lose it. Like I'm such a safe investor. I wish sometimes I could be more risky and maybe get those big wins. Sure. I just don't have it in me.
Yeah.
And
I think that's okay. Because it's not like you're not making any money.
No,
like
for
that's
sure.
that's where like, if one day you decide you want to be risky, like that's your prerogative. And like you can do that. And then if not, if you're like, no, for the rest of my days, you always
this is what I'm doing.
Yeah, you've joked that you want to die in the like as the woman in the Titanic, like clutching your pearls. I'm like, that's so funny. But like, yeah, if you want to know that you're gonna like live out your life with this certain amount of money and that you're never gonna have to worry about it, like that's great. And there's some people, like my oldest brother always makes the joke. He's like, I want to die and I want my last check to bounce. And I'm like, that's a way of living too, you know? Like if you really are like, I want to fucking spend it all, That's your prerogative.
That would give me more stress.
It gives me stress too.
I don't even
but I'm like, maybe that's financial freedom to him. You know,
sure,
like he's like, I want to be by the end. Like my dying breath is like, and fuck you guys. Like I spent it all. I didn't leave one stone unturned. And some people like financial freedom to me. I'll add to this, and I think you agree with this because we care about our family and our friends and all that stuff. It's like and all that stuff, but. I want to be able to leave money for if I have kids, if I don't have kids, even for my like nephew, if I have nieces or more nephews, that would be amazing. I'd love to leave that money.
Absolutely.
You know, like I think about like setting up my parents, you know, like they're a huge part of my financial freedom would be giving my parents money back in ways like that. They've always supported me and it's true though. Like one of the biggest purchases that I would probably, and maybe this is backwards, but I would be more excited about buying a house for my parents than for myself. And I do like that. I know that sounds ridiculous.
No,
and maybe people are like rolling their eyes, but like I want to give my parents a beach house. Like I'm like, and maybe I need to do it to bribe them to stay in California. But it's true. Like I'm like, they've worked so hard. They gave me such a wonderful life and they've always supported me. And so that is something that I want to be able to repay back.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So that's, again, it's like when you start having these conversations, you start figuring out what really is important to you. Yeah. And we've said this on the podcast before, but we'll repeat it now. We're not big car girls. Like, we're like, we'll drive
my Prius until it dies.
Literally. And I'm like, some people like Neil, a car is really important to him.
Yeah, he really loves his car.
And I think that's great. I got in it the other day. I was like, this shit is a spaceship. It's beautiful. It's like, I don't think I've ever been in a car this nice. Like, it's
so cozy in there.
It's beautiful. It's cozy. I even joked. I was like, do you guys got seat massagers? And you guys were like, not in the back, but in the front. And I almost lost my shit because I thought you guys were fucking with me. They were not. They were not. There are massagers in the chairs in the front. And I was like, cozy. Hello?
I know.
But see, that's something that I wouldn't spend my money on. Yeah, that doesn't mean that it's frivolous.
I'm happy he does, so I get to enjoy it.
You get to enjoy it. You get to. Absolutely. But that's not something that really floats my boat.
Yeah.
But like, I will spend $10K on a fucking trip somewhere.
I will spend $10K probably over dinners. Over these. Like, I love eating
you are
out.
A dinner girl.
I love eating out.
Yeah, it's true. And like, if that's, you know, like you have to decide what is important to you. And I think it's so much easier to know how to get to financial freedom once you know what your version of financial freedom is.
Yeah. And knowing what's important to you, like you said, like like you mentioning your parents too. Like I feel the same way. My mom's done so much for me growing up that like I would love to take the burden off of her one day and just say, I got you.
Yeah, you don't have to worry
anymore. Yeah.
Live with me. Like I'm already like, when does Meg get to live with me?
Yeah.
And Dad. I'm kidding. Oh no, they're both still, you know, perfectly in love. So if they both would come. But I'm just like, I can't wait until my mom is living in my guest house and we watch Bridgerton season 12 together.
Because, or we just pull a Golden Girls and all four of us live together.
I would love that. I would love nothing more. I love your mom and I love you. And it's true. It's like, it would be that would be a dream for me, you know, and Noah and I have already talked about like, we always are like, should we buy a duplex and like rent one out?
That would be the funnest duplex ever.
I'm like, that would be so cool. And then that is an investment too. It's a real estate investment. If we're like renting out one of the units and then we share one or something like that. Or like a triplex and we both have our own and then we rent one. Like, that's what me and my friends are talking about.
But I love that. Like, I think really, like, we're, like, having fun with this. But, like, there is fun and, like, and setting out those dreams of what that financial freedom looks like to you. And, like, have those conversations with your friends and your family. Like, what are your goals? Like, what would make you happy? Like, to own a duplex with a friend or to, like, take care of your family. And what is that number? And how do you get there? And what steps do you have to take to get there? Like, this is all part of dreaming, of creating the life that you want for yourself.
Absolutely. If you don't mind, I want to tangent a little because this is something that I just recently talked to my therapist about at length, and it's a new idea. It's just like a new reframe of an idea that I already was kind of crunching on that I want to do a full episode on, but it's on scope, right? The scope of your life. Okay. So I'd seen something that was saying the main source of incompatibility with couples, friends, things like that is a differing in scope. So they were talking about, and this is kind of like adjacent to purpose. This is like our synonym for purpose is like, where do you see your life going? Like scope, do you see a big ass fucking house, boat, blah, blah, blah? Or do you want to like live in the forest and be off the grid and stuff like that? Because, you know, you might have the same work ethic and the same drive and things like that, but like how you want to spend your life is different, and that might not align, and you don't realize it until after, because now you're like, well, I want to retire and I want to be on the beach and never talk to my kids again.
Right.
And then your partner might be like, no, I want to be with the kids and do this, and I want to travel and I want to do. So like scope, I feel like is a great way to look at it too, when you're talking to your friends. Yeah. Even or in your partner. Yeah. It's like truly ask them and just like inquisitively just be like, what's the scope of your life? Like where do you see a massive life in front of you? Do you want like a quaint, like I don't want to be public at all, you know, because that's something that I've thought about even with this podcast. I'm like, my future partner, my potential future kids, like even my current family could be changed because of this podcast. Like, absolutely. You know, if it goes the way that we were planning it to go and we become more public figures, that's more
it
like,
changes their lives completely.
And it's like, so you kind of have to make sure you're in alignment with them of like knowing what they would feel comfortable with, what you want to do too.
Absolutely.
And seeing like, well, I want this to be huge. So what does huge mean? Does that mean like I'm recognized in public? Can I go out in public? Like how notable do I want to be? Like how much money do I want to be rolling with? Like do I want to be someone that just like lives a comfortable lifestyle like you said and just pays the bills and blah blah blah, or do I want to have someone that like I have extra cash to fucking spend anytime? So I think scope would be an interesting thing to explore.
That's so
Does anything resonate with you?
No, I love that. I mean, honestly, like for me and Neil, I know we've had this conversation multiple times, and like one of the things that we connected on so much is like, even when we talked about like where we would want, when we were looking for our new place together, it was like so much of what we wanted to experience in our new place, or the kind of like area we would want to be in, and the areas we were against, and like what we see for our future, and like the kind of lifestyles like we appreciate align. Yes. And otherwise, like, that's such an important conversation to have, because otherwise, like you said, like you could get to the end of that road and you guys want to go separate ways.
Yeah. And even if you were so compatible the entire way, the road up there, you know, because it's like, again, you could share the same work ethic. You could share the same loves of your life. Yeah. But like maybe someone wants to do it really publicly, or like, you know, like maybe someone is really social and they love their friend group, but the other partner like doesn't want to have dinner parties all the time. And the other one is like, no, that would be something that like
I really enjoy.
I would want a dinner party once a month with all my friends. And they're like, listen, I love my friends, but I don't want to have people over every month. And it's like, whoa, that's misaligned. And I think that's where like it's it's a version of compatibility that I don't think we highlight enough.
That's super interesting. I love that.
I just wanted to like put that in the chat.
I mean, if you guys are having this conversation, I would love to hear what everybody's scope is. Like, what is the difference? Like, are you learning different things about your friends or family if you ask them this question? Because that's super interesting.
Yeah. And I think it does really coincide and go hand in hand with financial freedom.
Absolutely.
So you could even, like, if you're worried about, like, just coming out the gate, like, what does financial freedom mean to you? You know, you could be like, what's the scope of your life? Like, let's just like,
what does the end look like for you? Like, when you reach that pinnacle, what does it look like? What do you imagine? Where are you living? What kind of house is it? Even if it's in the city, like that could be a high rise. That could be something more of like a house in like the suburbs of the city. Like there's so many different factors. Like, and these are fun conversations to have. Like, even
it should be.
It should be.
Right.
If it's not, then that's a problem.
But I think you're right. And I think just like, expanding your horizons, because even talking with my friends, including you, including Adam, including Mac, including Noah, when I talk to them about their scope, like I'm like, oh, okay, and like to see where it aligns and see where it doesn't, and like sometimes even if they're differing, it doesn't mean that they're not compatible.
No,
too.
Absolutely,
So it's just like, oh, and sometimes your friend might bring something up that you're like,
it changes your scope.
Oh, actually, that is really important to me. I'd like to do that.
Absolutely.
So, I'd recommend it, and I would like us to do maybe an entire episode on that.
I think we definitely should. It's coming.
But I mean, I think financial freedom is something that we all like. It's kind of a buzz phrase.
It's definitely a buzz phrase, but I think it's a buzz phrase in the fact that it is like, but it's so broad.
Yes,
and so it really is defining it for yourself and I love the scope aspect of it. Like maybe starting there and then kind of stepping back from that and saying like, how do I reach that? How do I, but not only reach that and like, but be drowning in debt because like I just like did everything and spent everything to get there.
I wanted a business, so I took a $350,000 loan.
And now I don't know what to do. Yeah. It's doing it the smart way and like really being able to enjoy that life once you get to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But well, we would love to hear about you guys. And we want, like we said, I want to hear about everybody's scope. We want to hear what financial freedom means to you. How are you trying to achieve it? Where are you taking it from? Like, did you learn this from your family? Is this something you're learning on the path? Like, we would love to hear all of this from you guys. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Please don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like, and join us next week on FemTell All.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.